Emergency Protocol 90206, calling Sky Captain. Come in, Sky Captain. Repeat, calling Sky Captain. Come in, Sky Captain.
This is Sky Captain. I'm on my way.
They show up without warning, they take what they need, and then they disappear without a trace. 3 years and we still can't explain what they want or who's sending them here.
There's really nothing more disheartening for a movie fan than when you go to see a film with a bunch of your friends, and while you absolutely love it, when the lights come on and you walk out, you realize that all your pals absolutely hated it.
This sucks more than anything that has ever sucked before.
Sometimes this is justified, such as when my group of buddies accused me of being insane for loving the terrible James Bond movie Die Another Day. At other times, they're dead wrong, such as when one of my best friends tried to convince me that Rushmore was bad. Believe it or not, this actually happened. And you know what? The same thing happened at The Matrix. Whoa. But luckily with a different friend, because I would have just assumed that this person had the worst taste in movies ever, but it wasn't the case. Another time, I was totally disheartened by the reaction of a group of friends back in the fall of 2004 when some of us went to see Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow on opening night, a movie I loved but nobody else did.
You don't like my smile?
I don't like what's behind it.
So wait a second, some of you might be asking, what the heck is Sky Captain? It's a movie that 20 years ago was pretty heavily hyped up by Paramount Pictures, as it was shot in a revolutionary way by director Kerry Conran, with it all shot against virtual sets and green screen.
What have you got me into this time, Joseph?
Before this came out, people were saying Conran was maybe going to be the next George Lucas for how he seemed to be a total VFX pioneer, but audiences end up not caring for the cartoonish world our live-action heroes find themselves playing against.
All right, Polly. No more games. What the hell is going on?
I was hoping you could tell me.
What happened was that Conran was simply too early with his use of the technology, which was used to much better effect by Robert Rodriguez on Sin City.
Oh, sugar. You just kind of done the dumbest thing in your whole life.
And Zack Snyder on 300.
This is Sparta!
And nowadays happens to be standard.
This is the way.
This is the way.
Of course, it likely wasn't just the visual style Sky Captain had going against it. The film aims to recreate old Saturday afternoon serials from the 30s, albeit with a diesel punk, quasi-futuristic spin.
I have been witness to a world consumed by hatred and bent on self-destruction. I know now that the course the human race has set for itself cannot be changed.
It was another failed attempt by Hollywood to make a pulp adventure-style movie. Indiana Jones, of course, had done this brilliantly, but movies like The Shadow and The Phantom tried to mold pre-existing pulp characters into modern action heroes, and it never really worked. They adopted the high adventure style of the Indiana Jones film, but audiences stayed away in droves. Sky Captain: The World of Tomorrow would be more like Indiana Jones in that it was Conran's original creation, but while those movies were grounded by amazing stunt work and action, Sky Captain was deliberately artificial in an extreme way.
I don't like this business you're getting yourself into.
I'll be just fine, Mr. Paley.
In it, Jude Law plays the titular Sky Captain, aka Joe Sullivan, who heads his own private air force and acts as kind of a superhero protector of this alternate history New York circa 1939 on the premiere date of The Wizard of Oz.
Get my plane ready, I'm going up.
When mysterious robots invade the city, Joe teams up with his ex-girlfriend, a plucky reporter in the Lois Lane mode called Polly Perkins, played by Gwyneth Paltrow, to discover what's behind the sinister plot.
I can see something now coming into sight above the Palisades. They're crossing 6th Avenue.
The next hour and 40 minutes features our heroes doing battle against all kinds of mechanical villains, including Bai Ling's retro cyborg henchwoman, with a little help from Angelina Jolie as a dead sexy, one-eyed Navy pilot named Frankie.
Enemy target spotted 4 points to the right. Depth, 1600. Look sharp.
And Sky Captain's sidekick Dex, played by Giovanni Ribisi.
I thought you said this thing was big. Can I have it?
Before we continue with our video, here's a reminder to click the Store tab on any of our JoBlo channels and browse our collection of the latest and freshest designs in our merch store. Go get you some.
So the movie is highly stylized to a fault, with it very much in the gee whiz style of a movie made 70 years before this ever saw the light of day. More cynical audiences at the time dubbed it as cheesy, with only a few of us appreciating the retro pulp feel. Sky Captain: The World of Tomorrow had a visual style that likely turned off a lot of viewers, with it shot on primitive digital video and then manipulated to look like highly stylized film. Some thought it looked amazing, others thought it looked cheap. Paramount swore it wasn't the latter, with them saying it cost a pricey $70 million, although Conran years later scoffed at this number, saying that if indeed it cost that much, it was spent on things other than the filming.
Oh, Vienna sausages. My God, it's been so long.
Some critics at the time appreciated Sky Captain, with Roger Ebert a notable defender who gave it 4 stars and said watching it reminded him of seeing Raiders of the Lost Ark for the first time. In theaters, it only grossed about $37 million domestically, which isn't a terrible number, plus another $20 million overseas, but it was considered a flop and it put Conran's career on ice, seemingly permanently, with him never directing another movie.
What's that point there?
That's where we run out of fuel.
All right.
Yet there were reasons other than the film's quality that played a role in its failure. At the time, the 2 stars in the movie, Gwyneth Paltrow and Jude Law, were considered very overexposed.
I can take anything you dish out.
Good. Because that was nothing.
This was particularly true of Law, as it was around this time that Hollywood decided to make him a household name. This happens every now and again, where once in a while, an actor or actress becomes the toast of Hollywood and makes a whole bunch of high-profile films in quick succession with the idea that they're going to be future megastars.
I cry all the time.
You do not.
Yeah, I do. More than any woman you've ever met.
Sometimes this backfires, as it did with Armie Hammer or Jai Courtney. Yes, Hollywood spent years trying to make Jai Courtney happen. But sometimes it works too, such as what seems to be happening right now with Glenn Powell or Jennifer Lawrence back in the day.
You know what? Forget I offered to help you, because that must have been fucking crazy.
Law made 2 May movies back-to-back, with this his 6th film in 2004 alone, with many of them, including his ill-advised remake of Alfie, being notable flops that just kind of played on his good looks, and audiences didn't care for that.
Nick, this is a complete drag.
The failure of all these movies put a notable chill in his career for a while, but Law was smart, doubled down on being a character actor first, eventually gaining new fans in more complicated roles, and his career has endured well in the 20 years since Sky Captain.
I don't want to hurt you.
If you haven't seen this movie, I urge you to check it out. It's a fun, old-fashioned adventure with a great score by Edward Shearmur, who never really became the A-list composer he should have been. It has a bouncy pace, and even an early example of post-mortem casting, with Laurence Olivier playing the bad guy despite having died a whole 13 years before this came out. Give Sky Captain and The World of Tomorrow a shot, and let me know in the comments if you think I'm right, that this is an underrated gem, or if my friends were right and it's actually terrible and I just have terrible taste in movies. Let me know.